In honor of Black History Month, Otakon would like to acknowledge Black and POC influential people within our community. Today, Otakon chats with Hilton George. Tell us about your background and accomplishments in the convention industry.
I am a convention runner, what is known as a con chair, as the founder of BlerdCon, the Black Nerd Convention. I come from a multi-fandom background as a nerd. Dungeons and Dragons was my, entry into the nerd space. Comic books was my lifeline. Anime, or what was known commonly as Japanimation in the 80s and 90s, was my calling card, and cosplay was more of my adult playground. And I found my way into the convention world, where I enjoyed years of community and fun. And one day, tapped myself on the shoulder with no sense of self-preservation and decided to start a convention of my own.
What anime series do you attribute to your growing interest in the genre?
Well, I was an art major and I was an artist for the longest time. And I loved watching, the Japanese animation style, the expression of it, the color, the movement, the motion. It was just leaps and bounds above everything else I was seeing. And my first anime, air quotes, that I ever witnessed was Star Blazers. But I was really too young to understand that it was anime and it was, dubbed and all of that stuff. So I didn't really understand it as a genre until Robotech, when I was a little older, and Harmony Gold delivered unto us a trilogy that I think cracked open, all of the doors and all of the windows for, the mass consumption of international anime. And the fact that it was so mainstream, it was coming on at 3 o'clock in the afternoon. It was right between He-Man and, G.I. Joe, or two, kids shows. And it was just placed there because it was cartoons, I guess, in the minds of the censors. But I'm watching people getting murdered and cut down by gunfire, and people having consequences for their choices, planes and vehicles getting shot down without the parachute, the mandatory parachute that comes down. And you're watching love and love triangles, and you're watching betrayal and all of these things. And as a little kid, you're like, oh my God, this is at 3 o'clock in the afternoon. My favorite character is dying in front of me. There's nowhere else is happening. And from there you just kind of opened up. And see, back in the day, you didn't have Toonami, you didn't have Adult Swim, you didn't have any mass delivery of anime. You had to know somebody who had a connect, either a cousin or a brother or somebody who was in the Navy or something like that, who was sending back, VHS tapes of anime that was undubbed. Just a bunch of people you run around yelling and screaming and killing each other. You didn't know what was going on, but it was still cool to watch. And that is what allowed me to just fall in love with the genre. I can even start to recognize, animation that came from Korea and Japan that was inserted into, American animated TV shows.
What are your thoughts on the impact of modern anime culture compared to past iterations?
There's a mainstreaming that's happening, specific to the anime community, but across all nerddoms and fandoms. I think that Hollywood, I think the fashion industry, I think the music industry, I think, the gaming industry has recognized that there is this reservoir of storytelling and imagery and wonder and community that's just right under their feet that no one has tapped into. And you have this generation of us, people who were kind of raised and weaned on, this genre, for whom which we're now, a marketable demographic. We have money. We're out here working now. We're not, third graders, pointing at Naruto and trying to explain to our mom why she should pay $50 for a sweatshirt. We're not that person anymore. And now you're seeing so much of the geek space being mainstreamed that the fandom is going to follow. We call ourselves, lifelong nerds. Well, I got a nephew who came out the womb with a Harry Potter wand in his hand. I mean, there's an entire generation of people for whom which the word nerd is not a pejorative insult, right? And it's a chest thumping currency. It's a community stamp that is going to cause, any community space will reflect, the energy of the community. There is no maximum appetite for anime and manga. You can put out too many Marvel movies. You can put out too many Star Wars properties in a year, and people will be like, whoa, slow down. It's getting junky. I can't keep up, blah, 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 blah. You have never in your life heard anyone complain that there's too much anime on TV. Like right now, there's literally an ocean of anime 2 clicks away from everyone who's looking at this on a screen. That is either their mobile device, their smart television, their laptop. You are 2 clicks away from any anime that has ever existed, movie, series, whatever. And no one would complain about that. It's saturated. There's too much. No one has ever gone to an anime convention and said, well, this is just getting too big. Like our appetite for anime goes beyond our enjoyment of the medium. It's the culture, it's the community, it is the sense of identity. The whole term otaku is someone who is just so inured and appreciative of Asian culture that you're willing to immerse yourself in it, to the point where, it's just funny because I'm like, we have a lot of Black nerds that take mecha trips to Japan and not Africa. I'm going to kneel before the giant Gundam. It's like, it's some people would call it tragic. I think it's kind of funny, and it's a weird turn and twist on culture, but it's not new, and so the people who are like complaining like, oh, Black people, are substituting their culture and all this stuff. I'm like, did you ever see the 70s? The anime weeb is the replacement for the Kung Fu movie weeb.
Can you describe the significant connection between Black culture and Asian culture?
That cultural connection has been here for decades, right? And this is just another extension of that, right? And so I think it's kind of like a learned muscle memory for us as a culture to have this romance with, Asian culture and Asian storytelling and Asian traditions. And so we look for connections, real or imagined, and we kind of absorb those into our culture, right? I mean, what made Wu-Tang so special if they had not gotten all those beats from Japan and from China, right? All those Shaw Brothers, sound effects and, breakdown, dialogues and all this stuff. People are like, I know that melody. What is that from? And then you're like, oh, I'm watching, Kid with the Golden Arm. Like, oh, that's that same thing from Protect Your Neck. And I'm, right. I think that there is this memory in our culture that we need to reconnect with. I think it's this amazing partnership that includes art and obviously, martial arts, culture, music, fashion, that is all around us. And I've got outfits that I'm wearing that, they might be tech wear, but I'm like, wait a minute, this thing is set up I look just like a samurai without the helmet in this outfit. And I didn't even think that's what I look like because I was so focused on this wear.
What advice would you give to anyone looking to enter the industry side of conventions?
It's funny, and this is going to sound real trite, but I'll say it and then I'll explain it. The advice is don't. Just stop. My number, I'll send you my number, call me, and I will tell you why what you're planning to do is only going to cause you harm and dismay. And don't do it. Okay, so let me rewind. Okay, I just gave you the back end. Let me give you the foreground. I get solicited and I get a lot of outreach from people who are asking that exact same question. It might be cosplayers who are looking to kind of forward their cosplay brand, or people thinking about starting conventions, or kind of getting into the business side of the nerd space. And 80 or 90% of them are not ready to sacrifice the fun. And what I mean is, you go to Disneyland and it is an amazing space. It's all this amazing illusion of fun and levity and magic that if you are an attendee, I don't care how jaded you are, you're going to get sucked into it. And that's the brilliance of how they've done the layout and the colors and the music and the costumes and everything. But if you've ever been to Disney World or Disneyland with someone who used to work there, it is a freaking horror show. Like, those folks they are so jaded. because they are completely tuned out to the magic and the illusion. All they see are the gears and the machine behind it, because the illusion has been lifted. And if you go into the business side of a fandom, or any place that you consider to be a personal refuge, a place that you've only enjoyed as fun, and make it a workplace, you have to be ready to sacrifice that. And if you're not ready to sacrifice that, at least maybe not 100%, but to a large degree, if you're not ready to sacrifice that, you are going to ultimately fall short of whatever your goal is. Because if you're not ready to go to a convention, perhaps that you're working, or a convention that you're running, and stand back as the runner and have to monitor the moving parts, have to look with a predictive lens on what I like to call troop movement, like where are people going? What are they seeing when they go down here? Is there a bottleneck over there? Is there something that's going to end up a problem over here? These things are going to fall between the cracks, because when I see people who run cons or are trying to work a con, who are also trying to simultaneously enjoy the con, then you can't do both. The second thing I would say is that there's no gold on the end of this rainbow. There is no magical, rainbow with a pot of gold at the end of cosplay fame, or even con running. Con running is if you're doing it right, you're taking the profits from one year and rolling it into the expansion of what you need to accommodate the next year. BlerdCon started with 1,800 attendees. The next year it was 3,600. The next year it was 6,900. And then, you know what I'm saying? So, I have to rent more space. Any profit that has come from BlerdCon up till this very second has rolled back into the con, because I got to go and rent some hotel space across the street so I can put registration, because it's no more room over here and everything. So there's no pot of gold there. And third, for cosplayers specifically, it is tethered to this illusion that cosplay fame is somehow automatically monetizable, and it is not. I will tell you, the Yaya Han boat has sailed. Listen, Joann's is not signing any more cosplayers to $1 million deals and signature lines of fabric and Warbler or any of that stuff. That is gone. The most you can hope for, the best that you can hope for as a cosplayer who's influential in the community, is the ability to go to conventions, at no charge, meaning being a guest, going and being flown in, having your accommodation set up, being ready to, produce a panel and discussion about what you do and what you love, and then being in the space that's designated for you to demonstrate your work, which is, at a booth or something along those lines. And that's kind of the pinnacle. And I don't really see a whole lot of people going beyond that. But it is kind of disturbing that there are people who think that there is gold at the end of the clout rainbow. The more likes I get, or the more, followers I get, or the more, even the sponsors, a lot of them aren't monetary in a way that would change your rent or your tax bracket. So I would say just enjoy the space and be very honest with yourself about what am I willing to give up and sacrifice if I want to, monetize or turn the space that I love and my leisure space into a place of work. I've done this for 25 years. I was a low budget puff daddy in college. I was always behind the scenes. I was the guy handing out the flyers. I got the after party for the basketball game, football game. The administrator died and we're at the funeral. Come to the after party. That was me. Fashion shows, concerts, comedy shows, step shows, athletic tournaments, you name it. I did all of that. So being behind the scenes is where I've always been. That's where I'm most comfortable. Average person isn't that. And I don't know that people should spend money, risk their finances and their friends and a whole lot of pain and suffering because they maybe didn't ask the right questions or weren't honest with themselves. So I just say be very careful because it's a great life. I love the community and the con running community. It's some of the best people in the world, but I also know that it's not for everybody.
Thanks, Hilton. Did you enjoy our content? Leave a like or comment, subscribe to the Otakon YouTube channel, and ring the bell to be notified of future content.